All right, I am here for Do You Know Jack with Doc and Tommy of Bad Wolves. How you doing?
Doing all right. I'm starting to feel the weather creeping on me. I got some stuff in my face, I'm hoping to skip it. We'll see what happens. How about you, Tommy?
I'm okay. I got sick
You got the
in the
shit?
beginning of the year.
Oh.
Not the beginning of the year, in the beginning of this tour. But I'm better now.
Yeah, well, how do you prepare for a show, Tommy, given the fact that I see you're drinking tea. Is that sort of a ritual of yours before the show, or?
No, the tea is just, I don't drink coffee, so the tea is my form of caffeination. I'm about to go to the gym after this interview. But what do I do? Usually we all get together about an hour before showtime and stretch and listen to music. Either John or Doc will DJ, so it could be anything from Michael Jackson to... what's Sean's favorite selections?
Oh, John loves the 80s, so he'll listen to like Huey Lewis and things like that. It's kind of like, me, I like to mix
theme song.
I like to mix it up. So sometimes do hip hop, sometimes we'll listen to Cannibal Corpse. It really does, just kind of, just keep it fun and kind of get in the right mood. But for me, I'm, doing this for 20 years physically, it's getting harder and harder. So for me, it's stretching, and I'm, I have like a back roller and a massager, and then just trying to physically.
Bunch of big dudes doing bad yoga poses.
Yeah. So I'll do some push-ups, do some stuff, so I can make the guns look right on stage. Suck that gut in.
But yeah, that's really it. I do like the Melissa Cross is my vocal instructor, and I do her warm-ups.
Is that the Zen of Screaming?
I'm actually on the first DVD. That's how old school I am.
Wow.
So is Doc.
Are you working with her directly, literally?
Yeah, we've been working together for I think 14 years or something. I used to babysit her son when he was a baby. That's how long I've known her. Yeah.
I'm sure you know this, but that Zen of Screaming, it's so influential. There's I remember maybe about 10 years ago, I'm from northern Canada. I lived up in the Arctic for 13 years, and I just moved to Saskatchewan.
Jeez.
And there was this
sort of like California for you.
Actually, it is. Yeah, it feels
Okay.
super warm.
All right.
The wind is a little shitty though, but that's just the prairies, I guess.
Yeah. It was windy yesterday.
But there was this little hardcore scene that emerged maybe back in 05, 06, and all of the guys were doing Zen of Screaming, even way up there. It's crazy.
Yeah. The internet, man. The internet.
Yeah, I've trained with Melissa as well. She's amazing, and I had her on my podcast, and she's the best.
Podcast, even.
Yeah, the X-Man. Check it out.
I'll try not to be intimidated by that. Well, now listen, guys. Doc, you alluded to the fact that you guys have been in the business for a long time, and we've heard the whole supergroup label kind of bandied about you guys. Is that something that you guys embrace, or you know what I mean?
I always say it's in the eye of the beholder. We don't. I think the main thing I know when this came together was that myself, Tommy, and John specifically have always been kind of at the forefront of running and kind of whatever band we were in. So it's definitely kind of like this idea of, all right, how do we make this work without there being too many cooks in the kitchen and kind of having too many dominant forces? That's been one of the major challenges, is just, because often it's very easy to make a sports analogy, I think, where
for it.
Well, it's a lot of teams, you have your the people at the forefront, your leaders, and you have your role players, and you have the people that kind of serve their role in that, and so it's kind of figuring out when to defer, when to let someone else take the lead on something, and
We have a sword. So when we have meetings, whoever talks holds the sword. It's made of styrofoam, though. It's not dangerous.
Whatever works, I guess.
Yeah.
So what?
What actually happened to the light up sword that we got from Butcher Baby?
That was I don't know.
Did we give that?
I think you passed it on to From Ashes to New.
No, I didn't pass it. I passed it on to
Nothing More.
No, what's the band that opened up the Nothing More shows? I Set to Kill.
Oh yeah, they have it now. Yeah. There's a light up sword.
Right, yeah.
It's going around. It's a friendship sword.
I interviewed those guys, it would have been 3 or 4 years ago now, yeah.
Yeah, we played some shows with them in the States. Great band.
Well, that's the other thing, is you guys have been able to use all of the experience and collective contacts that you've had to like really, you know, get into the scene relatively quickly, right? I mean, I think that's worked for you guys.
Well, I mean, I think connections will get you so far. The truth is, it's the right connection. The fact that essentially, you know, Tommy linked up with Zoltan, you know, from Five Finger, and Zoltan, you know, just steered the ship in a way to get us with, you know, kind of a business collective that just knows how to make stuff happen in this business. And then when you get that combined with the right song and the right
record,
music video and all that, and then things kind of just started happening on their own. And the truth is, you can have as many connections as you want, but if all that other if we had no following at all and no one cared about our band, it would be very hard to get on these tours. It'd be very hard to get into some of these places. So things kind of just, yes, there were connections and there's a great kind of, I'd say, machinery behind everything that's happening, but it's also kind of the universe, just certain things happened at the right time where all of a sudden this band just kind of has something happening where people got into the band really quickly, you know.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, the big news just last week was the, you know, Zombie went, I think, double
platinum,
yeah, double platinum.
It went platinum in Canada first. It was the first country that we got platinum plaque for back in March, which was like immediately after its release. And we came back, you know, we came back to get on this tour, and we had gotten the email, and we were like, whoa, you know, it's crazy.
What do you think it is about Canada that, you know, has led to this sort of en masse embracing of Bad Wolves, Tommy?
I just think that Canadians love rock and roll. You know what I mean? It's not really any other way to slice it. It's just like,
I heard they love country too. I heard country's really big here. But I think he is right though. I think there's a little bit more cultural connection to rock and heavy metal. That I think there's just a tiniest bit of uptick more so than the United States, which I think is maybe.
That's in other territories. I've noticed that too. I would think we would both agree that Europe and Canada and like the UK and even like places like Australia, being from the US, it feels like the US is more dominated by like pop culture. What hip hop, and I don't really call it hip hop because it doesn't sound like what I think hip hop is. I'm an old man. I'm like, I like old hip hop. I like storytelling and morals and things of that nature, creativity. I don't understand these mumble rappers.
So have you seen Hip Hop Evolution then?
Mm-mm.
I have. I'm like on the second season. I love it. I'll watch any, and it's pretty crazy. A lot of people don't realize that Sam Dunn, who's Canadian, who did the Metal Evolution and Metal Headbanger's Journey. Actually, that's part of Banger Films, so that's pretty awesome that they've kind of expanded into that territory, and they're really great filmmakers. So I'm a huge fan. So I'll basically watch anything they do.
Yeah, well, and Shad, of course, is an emerging, hip hop artist in Canada.
The host of the show.
Host,
yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting, the whole science aspect of what Grandmaster Flash did. And,
yeah, I was really interested because it was this idea of like who was the first person to rap, and it's really this interesting thing of figuring out that they really think it was actually a comedian. This dude, I think it was it Pygmeat Markham, I forget what, but they would basically do like comedy albums for people at home, and he was rapping like about I think that's what was, I don't misquote me on that, but it's like interesting, like they trying to find the ground zero, the patient zero, like who was the first person to rap rhythmically, and it kind of predates. It's a really interesting way it kind of came together. It's very Frankenstein, but I'm interested in the history of music and kind of everything. So
well, now the big thing about Zombie, of course, is the fact that Dolores passed away right, I think that was it literally the day that she was supposed to work with you guys,
it was
lay the track down.
She was scheduled to record in the morning. She passed away in her sleep that night. So it was obviously we went through a lot of emotions of what to do. I think initially the reaction was to shelf the song, and having Dan Wade, who works at our UK office, and Alan Kovac, who owns our label, managed the Cranberries through the height of their career. for over 10 years. And, you know, we kind of came up with this idea of taking what we were doing, this like kind of reprisal of their song, and turn it into a tribute. And we talked to the family and said that we wanted to donate the proceeds to her kids, and the family was very supportive, and so with their blessing we moved forward with the release. And then we did a music video with Wayne Isham and the legendary Wayne Isham, and you know, it was all very surreal. We didn't know how anybody was going to respond. We had no idea. Nobody knew. We were just like, all right, well,
Yeah.
it wasn't supposed to be the first single of the record. Obviously, you know, it wasn't, you know, so it went viral. And in this kind of climate with the internet, the virality of the YouTube views, and then this streaming, and then, you know, and radio got on board, and then once radio was on, and then it was just off to the races. It was just everywhere, you know.
Yeah.
And we were kind of sitting back, like, not realizing what just happened, you know. And,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. So
Well, now what led you guys to work with the song? Like, I know Disturbed was very successful with their cover track, Sound of Silence. I mean, was it something meant to be in that vein per se? Or, like, what made you guys connect with that particular song?
well, I was a fan of the Cranberries when I was a kid, and I was literally writing lyrics to a song that the guys wrote called The Conversation, and it was kind of, you know, in the States, it was like there was this kind of really unsettled time, which is kind of still carrying on with the present administration, and how divided the nation was at the polls. But also, we were coming off the back of like the Vegas shooting, which I lived in Vegas during that time, you know, and just how much gun violence and school shootings, and then, you know, traveling through Europe and being a touring artist, and like having, you know, just the kind of terrorism at concert venues that were going on over there, and just in general. And I think that her message, even though it was very specific to the IRA bombing and Ireland's struggles with England, and I think that the message of collateral damage, that one life lost is too much, is more, you know, it was so relevant to today. And I think that's why people are attached to the song, you know, because that message, that what Dolores was saying, you know, we have to do better as human beings. And that was 20 years ago, and it seems like things have progressively gotten worse. So that was the original meaning of why we wanted to make this updated version, because it felt like it was a political statement that was the rest of Disobey. It fit in perfectly with some of the other topics that we were talking about on the record.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and of course her vocals on the track are very iconic, but you definitely put your own slant on it, and, you know, you were respectful of the original, I think, maybe without veering too far away. Like, you made it work, you know what I'm saying, Doc?
Well, the truth is, you know, this is a track Tommy developed with a producer, guitar player friend of ours named Philip Noslin before he even joined the band. So I was pretty much almost a passenger in the ride, kind of with everyone else. And they did such a great job, and we knew right away, like even before, as we were putting the record together, because we got signed, and then we had about 6 months before the record came out, so the band kept developing material, and we knew. You know, I could go to emails where it's like, we know this is great. We know this is, you know, even when we were first putting the record together, it was clearly a standout track, and the presentation about everything. So, yeah, man, I think it's just, there's a few things, you know, I think that just whatever was in the water that day, or what, you know, some things just kind of flow really well, and people connect to it. And you know, I think I don't necessarily believe I have any more information about why something works or not, or why something is a hit or not. I mean, maybe subconsciously I've kind of, some of these things have seeped in, but it is, I think it's fascinating just to kind of be in our position and kind of see it from the inside looking out of how a song, especially now in this day and age, because of the internet and virality and the way things get spread and shared, and how fast these things can happen. So it's been a journey, and it's been kind of cool just to be a part of this, and and hopefully help uplift Dolores' legacy and the legacy of the Cranberries, and and put a spotlight on everything they've done as well. Kind of hopefully not make it all about us.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you guys did the right thing by donating the proceeds to, the family, and you're handling things, I think, very respectfully, and I mean, you're doing your thing, and of course, you've probably done scads of interviews where you're talking about this very track. No masters though. That's the next single. What can you guys tell me about that one? I was just listening to it in the car on the way over.
Well, that song, I guess, was
the last ones that we did. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that song, that's my favorite song on the record, and probably the song I kind of, after I joined the band, that was one of the songs I kind of, had some input on, working with Tommy on some vocal stuff and working on some musical stuff, as well as the guitar solo. And I think it was a real breakout song for the album, because it kind of tied the heaviest material on the record and the kind of rock material, and it's like the perfect blend. And I just think those types of songs, because it's in the vein of a Metallica or an Avenged Sevenfold, or something like this, or like a Pantera Walk, like something that's very straightforward and very kind of right down the middle, really big groove. And it kind of proved to the band that we could actually write songs like this that could be heavy, but not sacrifice melody, not sacrifice hooks. We don't have to scream the whole time and put 50 breakdowns or something in there to make it heavy. And it's like, to me, it's just like it's like an arena metal song. And it's it's definitely one of those ones that's like, all right, this is cool because it established something that we can also work off for the future, and especially doing, like I said, doing these arenas and bigger venues and festivals. It's the perfect kind of song for stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. What's your take on it, Tommy?
I don't know. When we play that song, it gives me the vibes of all of my favorite bands that I've seen growing up, and it's just kind of like, I think what we were able to do is we brought a modern sound to like kind of just like a timeless vibe. It's like like there are parts of it that when we play it live, I feel like Samba True, Walk, but there's also like a vibe of We Will Rock You, and it's just like the crowd participation and having everybody's clapping, and it's always interesting, like being an opening band with like 2 songs on the radio. Who knows what other songs go over well in the audience? And that's always one that, like, I'm always surprised how many people are singing it back. And so it's a good meter for us of like, oh, okay, this is reaching people, you know what I mean? So, and sometimes it's I think sometimes with a label, there is like kind of a box, an identity of what the single is. And I think that was one that snuck on as an unsuspecting single that wound up is just one of the ones that is like, I get every day, like 10 people message me on Instagram and Facebook of them listening to that song in their car, whether it's on their own iPod or phone or the radio. It's great. It's cool.
For sure. Well, I mean, you guys are on tour right now with 3 Days Grace, but I guess my curiosity is, what's next for the band. Of course, your record, isn't really the paint's still wet on it, but I mean,
we're already 10 songs into the new album.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Are you guys a band that like is writing all the time, even?
Yeah. We had like 1 week off. We had a week off, and after Europe. And I went into the studio and I recorded 4 songs, and then John recorded 7 songs.
Yeah, 6, 7 songs. I worked on some material, and then we had stuff left over from the previous record, and there's so many ideas out there, and we know that because of our touring schedule and how difficult it is, we have to essentially get all the work done in these really specific times so that it can be out. So even though right now you're like, oh, the paint's still wet on the last record, but for people to kind of be serviced with the next record, we have to be working on it now, because these the promotion schedules are so drawn out that you need
Yeah.
kind of about 6 months
Yeah.
from the time you finish something. So the idea is, coming up for us, we're gonna finish the new record, and then we're going to Australia with Nickelback in February.
Oh wow.
We just confirmed some festival dates in the U.S. Sonic Temple Festival in Ohio, which used to be Rock on the Range. We're doing that.
We have side shows. I think we're playing Sioux Falls again.
Yeah, and then we have the tour we've confirmed, but it's not announced yet. So we'll be doing another U.S. tour.
It's in the summer,
So we're
and that's gonna be a banger.
yeah. There's the train is pretty much going to keep on rolling, but luckily we'll get some time at home to put our brains
Keep
and
caps
souls
back on, yeah.
back together, and I think we're all looking forward to that. We're looking forward to just for a band, when you're touring this consistently, playing the same songs every day, you get that drive for new material, because you get not bored, but you get things, the monotony, and you it feeds that fuel to like, hey, let's come up with a new idea, let's come up with something that feels fresh. For a band, you don't want to feel like you're just kind of retreading things too much. So it's and now we touring with bands like this and Five Finger Death Punch and Shinedown, you get to see really what works in these environments, and bands that have been writing great songs for two decades, and you see, it inspires you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, listen, guys, I really appreciate your time. I think I saw on the schedule you guys got to get out there.
Yeah, we're sound checking.
It's happening.
But it was awesome to have this opportunity just to chat with you for a few minutes,
No
man.
problem.
Much appreciated. The record
Thanks
is
for
great.
having
I'm
us.
really enjoying it, and good luck. Merry Christmas, I suppose.
Likewise.
Merry
Likewise.
Christmas.